It's Pete from Cheap Homesteading, and today we're going to be working on the garage on my Massey 35. If you missed the last video, I didn't get rid of my Massey 50. A friend of mine said he had a Massey 35 that had the same Continental Z134 motor in it, and the base was fine. It threw a valve, so I thought, man, I can probably use the crank, I can use some parts, and then I can kind of get out of my engine problems pretty cheap. So I bought the tractor, he dropped it off, and then the tractor's in incredible shape. So I'm kind of thinking that I'm just going to try to get this thing up and running, because the end result is I just need a tractor running for the winter. I need a tractor to blow my laneways. So if I can get this thing up and running with minimal work, I'll get it running, and I'll use this to clean my laneway this winter, and then I'll have all winter long to rebuild my Massey 50 and do a really good job. So that's what we're planning on. So this tractor here, it dropped a valve, and I had the scope out and I was looking, and you could see the valve lying on the top of the piston. So I don't know what it's gonna look like when I get in there. So let's get at it. Okay, so the biggest feat was to get this thing in my garage. I had to pull my Massey 50 out. This tractor is fully stock except the tank, which I actually don't mind. Someone built that tank and they did a really, really good job. I am actually really, really impressed in how they did that. Nice job for sure. So everything will be the same as taking a head off a Massey, except taking this tank off, because the tank's a little bit different. But let's start pulling it apart. We're gonna take the fuel line off and see. Uh-oh, that's drained it. Okay, so we're unbolt the tank. This tank is oh man, I made a mess. That tank is super heavy. I just made a big mess all over the floor with that old stale gas. That's like awful smelling. Only 2 screws that hold the valve cover on. If there is a valve missing and it's fell down into the cylinder, when we pull this off, we're gonna get a good look at that. So we're gonna pry the valve cover off, but don't bend the valve cover. You wanna make sure you don't bend it or it won't seal properly. Just gonna pry there. A few places. There we go. Oh my. Oh my goodness. So there's the problem. The spring broke, and most likely, see, that's a new brake, but all you need is one like that. I don't think that's a new brake. So the spring breaks, and then there's nothing to hold tension on these little locks, and then the locks fall out. Man, oh man. Oh, that's great. Wow, look at this one. This one's broken already. It didn't drop out yet. That is crazy. That actually looks like a new one. So someone's had trouble with this but never fixed the whole problem. So this thing's gonna need a whole valve job at the very least, as long as it didn't damage the head too much. So we're gonna pull the spark plug wires off. We gotta take all these bolts out, and probably the governor linkage so I can actually lift the head off. There you go. Gonna drain the coolant. I removed the exhaust off it, loosened this pipe off, and disconnected the fuel line. So now we are ready to pull this apart. We're gonna remove the rocker arm assembly. Lift that up there. 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to mark it. Ow. Stick them through the cardboard. Just so you can put them back in the right spot. Man. Oh, this is... Okay. So there you go. We have one more there that fell down. The one that broke fell down there. Looks okay. So now you just set that in a safe place. Okay, so that's why it's important to change your valve springs for sure. You know, I could see that this guy changed at least one. Another one was broken in here, so it must have been making some noise, I'm thinking, before it gave up. It's amazing, these old tractors, you can actually get them apart pretty quickly. There's not much to them. Okay, that's disconnected. Pull the thermostat housing out of it. I ran out of time the other day. We're finally back at it. So we're gonna pull the head. We're gonna see what it looks like in there. Oh, there we go. That's a heavy, heavy head. Okay, so let's take a look. So it actually looks really good. There is some marks. There's a mark here, mark there, but I think the head's gonna be okay. The big thing is when it drops the valve comes in the cylinder hits it and then just mashes it up. If you look here, that can easily damage the seat. When the valve came up, it didn't damage the seat, so that's really, really good. So we'll be able to grind that. There's a little bit of damage here, which is just a little mark, I think it's superficial. Here. So I think if we clean this up, put new valves in it, grind the seats, I think this head's gonna be good to use. We're gonna clean it up, take a look and see if there's any more damage, but I think we're gonna be able to use it. So this is what I saw at the bottom of my cylinder. There is a piston that is demolished, and that is the valve. It broke it all up. So man, oh man, that is absolutely awful. We're gonna have to get a rebuild kit and some pistons. I'm probably not gonna have to do anything with the crank, which is a bonus. We're just gonna try to slide the sleeves out, clean her up, and see if we can get this thing up and running. Wow, this is gonna take a bit. That's tough. Resist the urge to use a buffing pad. Don't use your die grinder on a head. Okay, so I can actually see how it looks. We're gonna use a block of wood, and it's fairly fine sandpaper. We're just gonna give it a light sand. I want to take a good look and see if I can see any cracks. I can tell this engine has been apart before. Sometimes you can see a little bit of gasket material after you sand. It's becoming harder and harder to get machine shops. Like in Ottawa, there are some performance machine shops that check over heads, redo heads, but basically most machine shops have stopped and you have to go out and get a new head. So you know what? More and more, I just especially on my stuff, I'll look at the head very carefully. If you take it to a machine shop, they can magnaflux so they can actually see if there's cracks. It's been turned into this disposable society, and basically this head has a bit of damage from dropping the valve, but I think it's okay. I'm just gonna check it very, very carefully. If I don't see any cracks, we're gonna check if it's level, and if it's level and there's no cracks, we're just going to redo the valves, put new valves, new springs, and this thing will probably run for a long time to come. So now we're gonna check the levelness of the head. There is a proper tool for it. It's a bar, and it's like machined to a real close tolerance. So you put it on, you can check it. I don't have that, but we're gonna use a meter stick, a steel one, aluminum one anyways, and we're gonna put it over the head, and we're gonna look for a gap. If you have a flashlight, you can kind of put it on the inside and see if there's a raised portion, but I can actually see it, and it looks really, really good. You go right across, and you wanna check the whole way, and there's no problem there. If it's warped this way, it'll only hit the middle, and it'll be like that, so you can see that it looks good. And then you go sideways, and you wanna go across, and you wanna make sure that these portions right here, there is no gap. The head looks super, so now we're gonna take a look and see if we can find any cracks. Okay, so you wanna look carefully. I wanted to check around here if it looked like it cracked, and all the heads between the valves are the narrowest point, and you look for cracks. That's why I wanted to sand it a little bit. It's hard to see here because it's just basically cast, but you can kind of see that it doesn't carry on anywhere here. Like that looks like a crack, but that's just a mark from when it the valve hit. You go and you look, no cracks. The proper way to do it is Magnaflux it, but the machine is expensive, and for someone at home, it's really not probably feasible. So the best I can do is just look it over carefully, make sure it's flat, and we're going to re-grind the valve seats, put new valves in it, and then the head's going to be pretty good, I'm thinking. So that's what we're going to try to do. So now we're going to clean up the top of the block. We're going to look for cracks, the same as we did with the head. Make sure that everything is looking good. You don't want to put a lot of effort and money into something if the block's bad, or well, maybe even the head might put you under depending on the price of the tractor. So clean that up. And we don't have good rags either. So what we're going to do is look around, see if there's any cracks. Crack between there. That is a common place because it is the narrowest point. If you can't really see, don't sand like crazy, but just sand a little bit. And look, that looks good, that looks good, and this one looks good. That looks good. So now you want to look between the holes and the liners. I don't see any. That looks good. Looks good. Okay, all of them look good, so there you go. So there you go. I am super happy with the Massey 35. I think that was a good choice rebuilding the motor. The head looks good besides the damage in that one cylinder, and I don't think it's going to affect anything. So the head looks good, no cracks, it's not warped. The block looks good, no cracks, and it looks really, really good. So my guess is that we're just going to put a rebuild kit in, an in-frame rebuild kit. So we won't have to pull the tractor apart. We'll just have to take the liners out, put new pistons, get it all up and running. The only thing that's up in the air is my clutch is seized. It must have been sitting for a bit and it's seized. So we might have to split it after that, but it is what it is. So I'm happy with what I see. So we're going to track down some parts and get them coming because it takes a little time to get parts anyways. And my goal is to get this thing up and running before my holidays. I want to get it done and running and finished before my holidays. So then after my holidays, maybe we can work on the Massey 50. It is a lot of broken stuff around here for sure. So that's about enough for today. You guys have a good one.